Hi everybody, so today we're going to talk about respiratory gas exchange. And before we do, what we have to do is we have to talk about our atmosphere and pressures and partial pressures and things like that. So basically, let's start off with what partial pressure is. Okay, so our atmosphere is made up of gases, and the four main gases that are going to make up our atmosphere is going to be nitrogen, and it's going to be oxygen, and it's going to be water as a gas, right? We put the G for gas, right? And then it's going to be carbon dioxide. If I take how much pressure each one of these exerts and add it all together, my atmospheric pressure comes out to be 760 millimeters of mercury. Okay, that's my atmospheric pressure right there. Now, each one of these exerts a pressure, and that's called the partial pressure. So I'm going to put a P right here. The P is going to stand for partial pressure, right? And then what I'm going to do is we're going to look at how much this is. Our atmosphere is basically about 78.6% nitrogen. It's 20.9% oxygen. And then water is going to make up 0.5%, right? So water gas makes up about 0.5%. Carbon dioxide doesn't even make up that much. It makes up about 0.4%. Okay? So you can see carbon dioxide and water make up less than 1% of our atmosphere, right? So now if I take this percentage and I multiply it by this, I will find out that my oxygen makes up about 159 millimeters mercury pressure. Okay, this is what I'm interested in. I'm not too interested in this or these here because they're so small. This is going to make up about 159 millimeters mercury pressure. Now, when we breathe this in, what's going to happen is it becomes wet because our nose is moist, our mouth is moist, right? So when we breathe it in, this is going to become moist. And then not all of the oxygen is going to make it all the way down into the alveoli. So it's going to lose some pressure there, especially because some of it mixes with carbon dioxide in the alveoli. So now, here's what's going to happen. By the time it gets to the alveoli, this pressure has actually become 100 millimeters mercury. Okay? And we're going to look at this right here. This is the one we're interested in, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to draw an alveoli, right? And remember, alveoli is where gases are exchanged in your body. So here's my alveoli right there. Now, like we said, there's going to be oxygen in there, right? So the pressure from oxygen is going to be about 100 millimeters mercury, okay? We also said there's more carbon dioxide in there, right? So to give you an idea, we just said carbon dioxide makes up about 0.4% of atmospheric pressure, and here it's going to make up about 40 millimeters of mercury pressure inside the alveoli, okay? Now, the other thing we know is that you have capillaries that come by alveoli, so it can drop off carbon dioxide and pick up oxygen. So here comes my capillary right now. Now, I didn't draw the basement membrane, okay? So I know it doesn't go right against it. There's a basement membrane there, if you remember, that helps connect those. And this is going to be my capillary right here, okay? So let's take a look at this. And in my capillary, I am going to have a partial pressure also. And the partial pressure of oxygen here is going to be 40 millimeters of mercury. But not only that, my partial pressure of carbon dioxide is going to be 45 millimeters of mercury, okay? So let's go ahead and make my capillary come down just a little bit further. This is my capillary now. Now, if we look, the pressure here is 40. The pressure there is 100. 40, 100. 100 is a lot more pressure than 40. So what's going to happen now is oxygen is going to go from an area of high pressure, it's going to go from an area of high pressure to an area of lower pressure. It's going to go from high pressure to lower pressure. So I'm going to get oxygen diffusing into here now, right? And I'm drawing it down here. Don't get confused because I have the 40 there, but I'm drawing it down here because now I'm getting oxygen into this capillary. And what's going to happen is this pressure is going to reach equilibrium with that pressure. So I am going to get this up. Oh, wait a minute. My pressure of oxygen is going to go up to 100 millimeters of mercury pressure, right? And as you know, when we get oxygen into the bloodstream, this is going to become red, right? And let me see if I have a better red. I can't seem to find any good red. So, all right, so this is now going to be my capillary, but there's more. And that should be an M right there. Actually, I'm just going to erase this. Just remember it's millimeters mercury. All right, so it's gone up to 100 millimeters mercury. Now, here's the next thing that's going to happen. See this carbon dioxide right here? Let's play a game. 45 is more than 40, so this has higher pressure than that. So what's going to happen is carbon dioxide is going to come out of here, and it's going to enter into our alveoli, and then you're going to breathe it out. So my oxygen comes in like this, and it raises this up to 100, right? And I'll even go like that, right? And my carbon dioxide now is going to go, this is going to go down to reach equilibrium with this. So my carbon dioxide is going to go down to 40. So here's my CO2. And now this is 40 millimeters mercury, right? Millimeters mercury. So it's at equilibrium again. Make sense? We lost some to make that equilibrium. Now, this is going to bring, my blood vessels are going to bring this to my tissues. And I don't care where you say this is in the body. Some tissues require more, some will require less. So here's what's going to happen here, okay? Is on the tissues, we have, there's 100, there's my 100, right? But normally in the tissues, we have a partial pressure of about 40 millimeters mercury. Once again, 100 is higher than 40. 100 is higher than 40. So this pressure is going to come out. See that? The oxygen is going to come out, and it's going to basically go to equilibrium. So now this, my pressure of oxygen, is now going to match this. So there's my pressure of oxygen, and it's back to 40. Okay? So this has let me go around this way. This has become like this, right? Because of the fact that we had less pressure over here. Okay? The other thing that's going to happen is now I have my carbon dioxide there, right? And so my carbon dioxide is going to be at 45. Well, this is 40. So this is going to come out and reach equilibrium with this also. Okay? It's going to reach equilibrium with this also. So now, I'm sorry, I'm going the wrong way. Whoops, I went the wrong way. My carbon dioxide is going to enter. It's going to enter, right? And because it enters the bloodstream, my carbon dioxide is now going to go up to 45. So this is going to go up to 45. Now, one thing that's going to make oxygen come out, like we see, is the pressure differences. There's 100, there's 40. So oxygen comes out. It follows pressure differences. Some other things that it can follow too is in acidic environment. So if it's acidic, a low pH, what's going to happen is it's going to drive oxygen out of the bloodstream. Okay? And if you think about it, this would make sense, because what happens when you have a low pH? You have more hydrogen ions, right? Well, if I can get a bunch of oxygen molecules, combine them with these hydrogen ions, I can make water, and therefore I can make that pH more balanced. The other thing that's going to play a role in this too is if you increase the temperature. So if you're working out, you're running, you're doing stuff like that, your pressure check, you already have your pressure differences here, okay? But you're going to also make your environment more acidic, and you're also going to increase the temperature in the area. And then what will happen is that this will, you'll drive oxygen out. Kind of confusing there. Just remember, we're following pressure differences, okay? We went from, we went from 40 to 100 and back to 40. We went from 45 to 40 to back to 45. And you'll see right there's my 45 again, okay? So now let's look at how these travel. Okay, the first thing is going to be really easy is oxygen. So here's what oxygen does. Oxygen is basically, here's my red blood cell. And on my red blood cell, I am going to put some hemoglobin, okay? Now hemoglobin is basically a globin protein with some iron in it. And here comes my oxygen. And my oxygen is just going to enter into here, and it's going to make something called HB, and I have oxygen attached to it, right? That's how, and then it's going to travel around the body. When it comes time to come out, like you just saw, when we get the pressure changes, when we get the pH building or going down and become more acidic, temperature going up, this is going to go out. This is going to become HB, right? There's my H still, plus O, and then O leaves. So it's that easy. Oxygen's pretty easy. It just goes in, it attaches to an iron on the hemoglobin, travels around, and then it comes out when it needs to. Let's look at carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is going to be a little more different here. Okay, so what's going to happen with carbon dioxide? With carbon dioxide, there's three things that can happen. So let's do the first one. This is my bloodstream here, okay? This is my endothelium that's right here in the cardiovascular system. All right, so this is my endothelium right here. These are my red blood cells inside of it, right? Here's a red blood cell, and there's a red blood cell. The water part of blood is called plasma. So here comes my CO2. What CO2 can actually do is it can just enter into the bloodstream and it will be part of the plasma. It just goes as a dissolved gas in plasma. So the first way it travels is as a dissolved gas in plasma. Okay, and this is only going to be about 7% of this, okay? The rest of that is going to enter the red blood cells. Okay, it's going to enter the red blood cells. So I'm going to draw a red blood cell here. Okay, let me draw a red blood cell. Okay, this is my red blood cell. Let me just go around, make it a little bit easier to see. Now, like we've already said, on the inside of red blood cells, we have our hemoglobin, right? So what's going to happen is this, is you can also get carbon dioxide, and what it will do is it will enter into a red blood cell and it will bond with the hemoglobin, okay? That's the second thing that it can do. So my CO2 can bond with hemoglobin. Okay, when it does this, it becomes what we call carb aminoglobin. And that's the second way. So when we get this on here, now that's my carb aminoglobin right there, okay? Now, you may be saying, wait, I thought oxygen was on there. It can actually carry both. And wait, you're going to see in just a minute, it can actually carry more. So it can actually carry this also. But let's look at one other thing it can do. Okay, so there's two right now. It can go as a dissolved gas just in the plasma. It can go bound to hemoglobin, right? And this is about 23% of carbon dioxide is carried around the body this way. So let's look at the last one, okay? And here comes this. And what it can do is my CO2 can bond with water, and then there's an enzyme. Okay, there's an enzyme, and it's going to become basically carbonic acid, right? H2CO3. Now, I don't have room to write it right there, so I'm just going to put the enzyme out here. The name of the enzyme is carbonic anhydrase. Okay? Now, the thing is, it only stays, and by the way, it can go backwards this way too. It only stays like this for just a minute, just a matter of seconds. In fact, a lot of times what they'll do is they will actually take this step out, right? But here's my carbonic anhydrase, right? So I'm just going to draw it right there. My carbonic anhydrase makes this reaction happen. As you know, carbonic anhydrase is an enzyme, and we know that by the last 3 letters on there. This is going to split almost immediately, and it becomes a bicarbonate, HCO3, and it's also going to split into a hydrogen. Okay, so now I've split this acid into a hydrogen and bicarbonate. So this is bicarbonate. Okay, and 2 things are going to happen here. One, the hydrogen is going to go and bond onto another hemoglobin, right? It's going to bond onto another hemoglobin. This HCO3 is going to come out, and it's going to go to the plasma. Okay? When it does that, though, what we need to do is, this has a negative charge on it, right? So, actually, I want to draw this a little bit better. So my HCO3 is going to be in the plasma, okay? And then what's going to happen is, because this has a negative charge, I need to replace that anion, so I get a chlorine molecule now, all right, with its negative charge. So all I'm doing is I'm putting this back into there. Does that make sense? That's just going to go back into there. That maintains basically the overall charge of this red blood cell. Now, when it does this, this is called chloride shifting. All right, that's going to be called chloride shifting. Okay, and now this will just go into plasma. So I'm just going to put plasma down here, and it travels up to the lungs. Now, what's going to happen now, when it comes time for all this stuff to be breathed out, because remember, this is in the bloodstream going back up to the lungs, some things are going to happen. First of all, remember this CO2 molecule here, right, that came and went in there? It just comes out, right? Let's forget this side, and it just comes out. Remember this? I'm sorry, remember this that was attached to this, and it was called carbaminoglobin? Guess what happens? It just releases it, and it's just going to come out. Remember all this stuff that's down here? Guess what's going to happen? This is going to enter back in. It's going to bond with this hydrogen, right? It's going to bond with the hydrogen. And then what's going to happen is, remember, enzymes work both ways. So it's going to become, let me see, this is going to come up to be this again. It's going to go back this way. It's going to split into these two. And then this is going to leave. This is going to leave, right? So it just does the same thing backwards. Oh, and by the way, my chloride ion is also going to come out. So really quick, once again, my bicarbonate goes back in to here, and then once it's there, it's going to bond with the hydrogen again to become carbonic acid. Carbonic anhydrase is then going to split these two in two, and my carbon dioxide is going to leave. So when we say carbonic anhydrase, basically what we're saying is it's going to make it to HCO3, which travels in plasma. Okay, so there we go. There's our explanation of respiratory gas exchange. And I know it's a lot, but I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching.